but really it's because we had struggled with some things, and I want to confess this to you and ask for your forgiveness. And that's when their faces changed, very different expressions. So Joy's dad obviously got a little bit more firm, and Joy's mom started to tear up, and they said, so tell us, what did you do?
If you want Edric and I to get married, I'm going to ask for three things. The first is that we will tell my parents everything about our relationship, all these details that they don't know about, so that if Edric ever asks for their blessing,
they know
everything, right? And they can say yes, truthfully. Second, that he would not date anybody else.
Okay. I'm remembering the second one just now.
Yeah,
okay, the third.
And the third one was that he would really ask for my parents' blessing before he ever proposed to me. So I prayed for those three things. So what happened was, during this season when we were not communicating, one time out of the blue, you did call me once, and then you said, Joy, I
messaged you first, I think.
I want to see your parents. I want to tell them about our relationship, what happened. And so he came over randomly one time. I told my parents, hey, Edric wants to talk to you guys about something. It was so terrifying, to be honest. But
and just as a side sharing there, part of what we were going through in TCF, there was a speaker that came and talked about how in our lives, there are relationships we have, and if we don't put closure on them, they can affect future relationships, right? So I've had 3 girlfriends in my life. Joy's my third. So I tried to put good closure on the 2, right? I apologize for how we ended it and the things I did. So Joy was number 3. I wanted to make sure that I was clear. That was the backstory to this.
Know that.
Yeah, it's the backstory. So I'm like, okay, I want to clear this out, right? And so I reached out. I'm like, hey, yeah, I know we're not supposed to contact each other, but I just want you to know that I want to put closure. I'm sorry for what I did, and I want to be able to let your parents know, right? Let's clear it out. Because I was going to tell my parents also that I did it even with the other girlfriends I messed around. And so it's clear.
But let's just be very clear, okay?
Yeah.
You stayed a virgin.
Yes.
Okay.
All these
just
girls,
like messing around physically, but by God's grace, you
virgin. Yes.
In that sense, no actual sexual intercourse. Yes. Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
Calling it out. Very good. Thank you.
So anyway.
So here she is now. She gets a call from me, and then as she gets the call from me, we meet your parents and
dinner again, and we're talking to my parents, and we just confessed everything. And
actually, we didn't confess everything yet. I first said, the reason I wanted to meet with you is, I wanted you to know that part of the reason we broke up is not just because we wanted to pray and see if we were going to end up together, but really it's because we had struggled with some things, and I want to confess this to you and ask for your forgiveness. And that's when their faces changed, very different expressions. So Joy's dad obviously got a little bit more firm, and Joy's mom started to tear up, and they said, so tell us, what did you do? They counseled so many people, and you realize this in hindsight. So, I started saying, well, we did this, and they're like, what else? And I'm like, oh my gosh. So I'm telling them, here's what we did. And Joy started also sharing. Joy started to cry, also tear up, because we're confessing these things. And I'm like, what in the world is happening? This is like surreal, anyway, but it felt good to actually release it. So when we finished sharing this, the way that it closed, that whole conversation is, Joy's dad was actually very gentle. He said, thank you for sharing this. At least now we know what we can pray for. And so Joy's mom, of course, she's teary-eyed. She's like, thanks for telling me. Said, Edric, even if you never end up marrying our daughter, I want you to know I will always love you like a son. So of course, I'm like, wow, I never forgot those lines. And then right after she said that, my father-in-law comes in and he goes, what do you mean marriage? Nobody's talking about marriage right now. So that was his response. So that was the closure of that chapter. But because that checked off Joy's list, hey, check, he wanted to do that. And I had told her in that Meralco moment that, oh, how are you doing? Are you seeing anyone? We kind of just very quickly, are you seeing anyone? And I knew that some guys really wanted to pursue her, and sure enough, they did. I think that's why she started breaking out, because she couldn't take the fact of other guys being with her. That's just me. Anyway, but for me, I never saw anybody. I did get interested, but I never pursued. And some of my friends were egging me on, but I just said, I've got a lot of things going on. I don't want to. So that was checklist number 2 for her.
But wait a second,
And
I
then-
did not formally date anybody, just so that you know.
I know.
You know,
They
There
were
was a
interested.
guy, there was
You
a.
exchanged tapes together and all
Okay,
that.
wait,
Yeah.
yeah,
So
tapes, we're so
yeah,
old.
cassette tapes. I remember that.
Okay, wait, so there was a guy that tried to court me. Very nice guy, actually, Christian also. He was an American guy, and there were things about him that I appreciated, and we connected also. However, I told him, I don't think it would be right for me to see you because I'm really praying about something. And honestly, in my heart of hearts, whenever I imagined marriage, it was me walking down the aisle.
With Edric. Oh.
You're massaging my hand right now. He's massaging my hand. It's a coping mechanism.
Yeah.
I was upset at that dude, to be honest. I knew it from the moment we were playing basketball together and I was dating Joy. I was like, he's looking at her differently. This white guy, right? This American from
Anyway,
there.
it's not about him, okay? So.
Yeah. So anyway, he wrote a letter to Joy's dad. He wrote a letter and everything, like, I really want to marry your daughter, blah,
No,
blah,
not
blah.
married, to court, not married.
So
Anyway,
that's kind of how the love
it did
story
not push
blossomed.
through. It
Did not push
with
through.
that guy. And I felt convicted not to pursue another relationship because it was really my time also to really discover my identity in the Lord and make sure I was whole in the Lord first and really seek him first. And I just felt like in my relationship with Edric, I had tried to, but he became an idol. And so I didn't think it was right to replace now the space that was there with me and the Lord
With another guy.
with another person. And at the end of the day, like I shared with you, I really imagined walking down the aisle to Edric, and that was my heart's desire.
Right.
But I was just waiting during that season.
Yeah. So it was when we reconnected in that kind of miracle moment, let's call it that, these things that she had in her mind, God started checking off, So when that happened, she became more open. And me, I think when I was being mentored at that time, I asked these practical questions. How will I know if I'm supposed to go back into a relationship? And here's the background. And part of the advice they gave is, you wait on God to speak to you specifically. So I waited on him. I'm like, God, if you want me to go, let me know, because, should I pursue someone else? Should I not? And then when I was praying specifically about Joy, a verse in the Bible, Exodus 33, verse 13 to 14, was the moment when Moses was also asking God, should I go and do this thing you want me to do, which is to lead the people? I'm not sure I should do this. And God said, I will go with you, and my presence will go before you and give you peace. And I was like, is this the verse? So I spoke to the people who are mentoring. I'm like, hey, so you asked me to pray, and here's what I've come across. And they're like, that looks like it. So Edric, why don't you go? And the long story short is, that's when we got back together.
Yeah.
And immediately as we got back together, I already proposed to her. I got the blessing of my parents, her parents, and we ended up married.
Our engagement was super short. It was like 4 months.
2-3 months. Yeah.
4 months. So 4 months.